Good morning, everybody. Everything new under the sun. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas with family and friends and a safe Christmas. And we look forward to a happy New Year as well, especially those who are in Christ. We have nothing to fear for what's coming. We know our eternity is set, and we know where we're going. And so that's the joy that is within us, and we should be able to also tell other people about that joy, so that they are not worried about what's coming. Now, of course, with Omicron, it appears that things are getting maybe better. Maybe this will be the end of this pandemic, and I emphasize this one because I think more is coming. But this could spell the end of it as we move into a season of this just being a yearly flu or cold-like disease. Now, I show the four horsemen of the apocalypse for a reason. We're going to talk about this at the end of the video. I think it's something interesting, some speculation. So stay around for that if you want to hear about that speculation. All right, well, this as we go along in this pandemic, we hear more and more truth coming out. Finally, the truth is coming out in a lot of ways. And Fauci now admits that mandates were just a mechanism. What were they a mechanism for? Well, they're to scare people into or force people to get the jab. So it's just a mechanism to coerce Americans to get the jab. And so this is psychological warfare. And I looked up psychological warfare on Wikipedia, and it sounds very much like what we're going through. You can Google that yourself. I'm not going to take the time to look it up, but certainly there's been a concerted effort to give information and specific information in such a manner that it will convince everybody to get the jab, but give them no more than they need, no more than than Fauci thinks they can handle, or other doctors. And certainly they don't want to give you information that might discourage you from getting the jab, such as side effects, or maybe alternative natural methods that you could use, maybe increasing your health, maybe taking some vitamins. There's other avenues you could take, but they didn't want to give you that information because their end goal is just to get everybody jabbed. They don't care about your actual health. They don't want to go and say, go out and get healthy, lose a couple of pounds, and eat healthy, because that would help prevent severe disease if and when you get COVID. They don't want to talk about that. They just want you to get the jab. And it's a scary phenomenon happening in the medical world where they're simply telling you what they want you to know, and they're withholding everything else. And so right now, alternative media is out there, like this channel, like other channels, that are covering it very well, although being ostracized and being shut down and being taken out for hate speech and misinformation, and they're going to double down on misinformation, by the way. But there will come a time where you won't even be able to find this extra information. So be aware of this stuff now. Be aware of remember what happened during COVID, and think maybe there's an alternative to whatever this new thing is. I wonder what that could be. Could it simply be getting healthy and doing some basic things? And I think you'd be much better off with that knowledge stuck away in your brain. So, coercion, just a mechanism. The idea of requiring vaccines on flights, again, is another mechanism just to get people vaccinated. And so this is a scary thing that the world's moving into. And remember, we're going to move into a mark of the beast system, one world government, an antichrist system, where there will be significant coercion, this times 10, for everybody to get this particular mark. And I think it will be a health crisis. I think it will be a health crisis 2.0. And it will be like this, again, times 10, times 100, whatever. But if you don't get it, everybody around you is going to ostracize you. You won't be able to buy and sell. You think now is bad because you can't go in and sit down at a restaurant, unless you've got your pass. Well, it's going to be 10 times worse then when they ostracize you. You won't be able to go to grocery stores. And they already tried that in New Brunswick. Let's take a look at this. You talk about what 2022 will look like. China is feverishly preparing for the coming global famine. What? Coming global famine? What do they know that we don't know? Well, all the supply chain disruptions, all the stuff that the lockdowns and the shutdowns that the governments around the world have done. They've caused untold damage to the supply chains, to small businesses, to small farmers, many of whom who have gotten out, gone bankrupt, decided not to proceed, and maybe just to retire early. And we're getting to a situation where there may not be a lot of food options available come 2022, and China is seeing this and getting ready for it. It says, we live in a time when global food supplies are getting tighter and tighter, and global food prices just keep going higher and higher. Bizarre weather patterns and widespread natural disasters have been playing havoc with food production on the planet, and the pandemic has thrown worldwide supply chains into a state of complete and utter chaos. Remember the energy crisis in Europe. That's ongoing. That's current. Liquid natural gas container ships are turning around. They were going to Asia, and they're turning around, going to Europe to hope to supply Europe. That's going to cause further issues with Russia, because Russia wants to sell Europe its gas resources, and that's a significant issue. Prices are rising for gas there, so if you live there in Europe, get prepared for huge energy cost increases, and that in turn is going to increase the price of food. Any sort of food has to be shipped, grown, processed with energy of some sort. And there's a massive energy problem in Europe. It says, as a result, the world is currently battling the worst hunger crisis in history, and it is expected to get even worse in 2022. So what do we have to look forward to in 2022? I think famine is one of the next things. And we're going to take a look at the Horseman of the Apocalypse in a different sort of way at the end of the video, like I say, and you can tell me what you think about that. For a very long time, I have been warning that global trends indicate that we are heading towards horrifying global famine. Why? Because that's part of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. So let's take a look at what China's doing here. Apparently, the Chinese government can also see what's coming, because right now they are hoarding food on an unprecedented scale. Less than 20% of the world's population has managed to stockpile more than half of the globe's maize or corn and other grain, leading to steep price increases. The hoarding is taking place in China. But if famine is on the way, the Chinese are being extremely prudent, and the amount of food they are now stockpiling is eye-popping. According to the data from U.S. Department of Agriculture, China is expected to have 69% of the global maize reserves in the first half of the crop year 2022, 60% of its rice, 51% of its wheat. If things hit the fan, the author says, in 2022 and beyond, Chinese officials have ensured that their people are going to eat. In fact, they are estimating that the wheat reserves could meet the demand for 1.5 years. So they're getting prepared. And it reminds me of Joseph in Egypt, preparing in the 7 good years for the 7 bad years that he knows is coming. Now, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to recognize that after the pandemic, with the supply chain issues, with all the weather going on, remember the sea and the waves roaring, and men's hearts failing for fear of things coming upon them. That's happening in these last days, and the Bible said it would happen. In China, they have very smart people in China. They see that there's going to be some trouble in the food chains, trouble in getting food for their people, and they don't want that, because the people, if the people start going hungry, they will rise up, and the Chinese government doesn't want that, so they are hoarding food. China is maintaining food stockpiles at historically high levels. Our wheat stockpiles can meet demand for 1.5 years. There is no problem whatsoever about the supply of food in China. What is the U.S. government doing about it? Well, not much at all. FEMA has generators and electricity and a store of gas and these sorts of things, but they don't have any large amount of actual food. The U.S. does have some commodities that it purchased for aid programs, and there is very limited amount of food, water, generators at 8 widely scattered FEMA distribution centers. So when stuff hits the fan, as they say, are you going to be going to a FEMA center to get your generator and your ration of food? You should probably prepare for a little bit more than that, and be ready for yourself. All right, take a look at this article. And this is an interesting one about fearful signs in the skies and why is NASA hiring religious leaders to prepare for encounter with aliens? And this has kind of been a recurring theme. The Catholics had, I think it's their telescope called Lucifer, which is fascinating. And so the Catholics seem to be deeply involved in looking for and supporting the look for extraterrestrial life. In a rather bizarre move, NASA has recruited British priests to prepare the religious for the discovery of alien life, as space agencies claim to be getting closer to discovering evidence that life exists outside of planet Earth, reports the Times. So NASA knows that all the monotheistic religions of the world may have issues with this, and they want all the leaders of those religions to prepare their faithful followers for this, because they don't want a group of faithful followers rising up, against NASA or whatever, causing panic. They're preparing all the religions and all the religious leaders of the world to be able to explain to their parishioners, their congregants, whatever, what this is and how this fits into their scriptures, whatever their holy book is. Now, as Christians, you and I know that what this will end up being is demonic beings, angels, fallen. And so is there extraterrestrial life? Well, there would be in that manner. Demons is probably what we're going to see, shape-shifting demons, and nothing more. The Bible doesn't describe any humans or species anywhere else. And if there were, then Jesus would have to die twice or three times or on those other planets. But he died for the sins of the world, not for the sins of aliens. It says Reverend Dr. Andrew Davison, and theology professor at the University of Cambridge, is among 24 theologians who is participating in a program sponsored by NASA. The theologians are attempting to assess how major religions would react to news of alien life being found. And if there is just distraction needed, maybe the rapture occurs. Maybe they'll bring out aliens, unveil aliens upon the world and say, you know what, all these Christians were taken by aliens. And that has been posited a number of times over the last many years. But what will happen in the last days? All right, let's take a look at this before I get to the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and we'll take a look at it. Nothing new under the sun, from Ecclesiastes. Pro-Israel advocate sees haunting parallels in Germany between current COVID crisis and the 1930s. Are you encountering any enter only if vaccinated signs in your community? One of the ways Germans who refuse to take the mandated inoculations are being ostracized is yellow painted signs saying, "Do not buy from the unvaxxed." Now, we're not there yet, but what would happen if the Mark of the Beast came out and you didn't accept it? You as a Christian, you said, I read the end of the book. This is what's coming, and we cannot vow allegiance or worship the beast or the image of the beast. And what would happen if the whole world said, you're a religious fanatic, you have to take this for the good of the world, for the good of your neighbor. If you love your neighbors and your family, you'll take this. But you won't be able to buy or sell. What's going to happen then? Do not buy from unvaxxed. And it says, so do not buy from unvaxxed have appeared on store windows in Central European country. In response, some protesters have started wearing yellow badges shaped like the Jewish Star of David, with the inscription "unvaccinated," drawing comparison to Nazi persecution. So Jan Markell says this: I've said for almost a year that there are some haunting parallels between 1930s and the 21st century here with the COVID crisis. A new group of people in the 21st century are becoming the new Untouchables, the new yellow-starred people, and that's just and that's those who just choose for various reasons, and there are lots of reasons to be unvaccinated from COVID. So it looks like things are maybe winding down for Omicron, but don't worry, there's going to be a new one that's going to really push this. I suspect there will be a new medical emergency. It's already proven that it works. Worldwide, they can lock it down. They can have bank holidays worldwide because of medical emergencies now. This is uh, a precedent has been set in all countries around the world for medical emergency. Now that when the next pandemic comes along, they know exactly what they can do. They can lock us all down. No one's going to say a word. The public will comply out of fear, out of simply what government officials are saying. They will take them at their word, and they will put mandates on people. What will the Antichrist do? He will prevent people from buying and selling, and that's going to be a great pressure point to have people accept the mark and worship the beast. They're going to say, you know what, this isn't worth it. This Christianity thing, this faith thing, whatever it may be, Islam, etc., anything, it's not worth it. I want to eat. I'm not ready to die. I didn't accept I didn't accept Jesus. I didn't start going to church when I thought that I wouldn't be able to eat. So I'm going to choose this current life, this temporary life, and I'm gonna think in my own brain that this is it, and that there's no eternity, and I'm gonna fall away from the faith. I'm gonna give up my faith because I just want to live. I just want to live in peace with people, and so I'm going to accept this. And a lot of people are going to do that in these last days. Let's take a look at the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Now, what would happen if the conditioning and the run-up to the 7-year period and the run-up to the four horsemen of the apocalypse were to occur in reverse order? So, hear me out. There's four horsemen in the first, second, third, and fourth seal. What happens if we're going backwards now? We started with the fourth horseman, which is death, Hades with them, core to the earth, killed with sword, famine, death, and beasts. Maybe the pandemic is part of that, a little taste, if you will, of what that is. And so we're going backwards then to the third horseman. And maybe in 2022, huge inflation, the economy collapses. And then from that, in 2022, we move on to the violence and the peace being removed. Why? Because what does the Antichrist, this one world leader, what does he promise? Well, he promises peace. He promises to fix the trouble in the world. He promises to fix the conditioning and the initial bout with the four horsemen. He promises to fix all those things. So the pandemic, the economic troubles, and the violence. And what's the first horse? The white horse, a crown given to him, went out conquering and to conquer. Could this, again, be the Antichrist saying, you know what? You just went through the prior three horsemen in reverse order, and doesn't Satan do everything in reverse? And he's going to come. Satan always does everything in reverse and backwards, and he's going to come and fix it. He's going to say, look, you went through the pandemic. You went through economic collapse and huge inflation, and I'm going to fix that. And look at the violence around the world. I'm going to fix all the violence in the world. And he comes on a white horse to save us, conquering. He's got a crown, and he's conquering, and he will conquer. And he's going to make everything right. And he's going to make peace in the Middle East. But then once the Antichrist has come out, then I think the real four horsemen of the apocalypse will ride, and then we'll start seeing this in the correct biblical order, and then it will play out in full strength as God intended. So Satan comes out, switches things in reverse, and starts kind of warming everybody up and getting everybody set for this, and then they go in full force as we head through the first 3.5 years of the 7-year period. Something to think about. Are we seeing the four horsemen of the apocalypse in reverse in a very light manner? Four horsemen of the apocalypse 1.0, and then the 2.0 comes in full force as intended by God in the Bible. and as described. But we know, again, that Satan always does everything backwards and reverse, and he's always trying to copy, although he never copies or is able to copy exactly what the Lord has foreordained and allowed. So we move backwards into a place where the rider on the white horse is able to rule, and then these things start coming down the pipe in earnest. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting 2022 year. I'm going to come out with predictions, if you will, just for fun, just to look at what could be coming. And so stay tuned for that as we look at 2022 and the predictions. I made predictions last year. We'll take a look at that and see if they came true or not. And it's going to be a very, very interesting year as we're in that Shemitah year from September this year to September next year. And I think all the items on the timeline, I'm gonna get this timeline updated. We're gonna take a look at what that looks like, what that could mean for you in 2022. So stay tuned. It's an interesting time to be alive. Follow all the other Bible prophecy teachers, John Holler, J.D. Farag. I don't agree with everything that they say. And I'm not a preacher of rapture either. I think we're going to see a lot of this. But we'll find out. We'll see how it goes. I think time is quickly winding down. Be prepared. Get your hearts in order. Get your house in order. Get your faith strengthened, because it's going to be so hard at one point when you will not be able to buy or sell. And many Christians are going to give in. They're just going to say, I did not sign up for this. This is not worth it to me. And they're going to give up their faith, and they're going to take the mark. And that's why the Lord says when he comes, will I find any faith on the earth left? And that's a scary thought. Will you be faithful till the end? Many won't. So be prepared. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.